Good afternoon, everyone. It is Sunday, the last Sunday of the month, April 26, 2026, at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And so it is time for the legal hour. I'm going to get into what became my story, my personal story. That's going to be the topic for today, that I'm going to try to use in a way that, now that I've calmed down a little bit since yesterday, I'm going to try to use that as a teaching tool so that you all are not in the same position. But first, before I start talking about my mother's new washer dryer combo, I do want to give some updates in regards to the Benton Harbor water litigation that I discussed not last month, but the month prior, because I've had a lot of people reaching out to me in regards to the Benton Harbor water litigation. As I said before, I'm not involved in the litigation. I'm not an attorney for the litigation. But, I did my show as for educational purposes. If you had questions about it, it is still available on YouTube. Facebook deletes the Facebook Live videos, but YouTube has them forever. So if you go to my law office YouTube page, then you'll be able to access the video and watch it in full. It gives you a background about what the claims of the litigation were at the time and are, and what the current status is, which really and truly has not changed that much since I did the show. The only big change and difference is that people have been contacted. So that's what I want to go through right now, because I had several people contact me to say that they did get notification. They got a mailing in the mail that they were part of the plaintiff class. And then I got several people contacted me who said I should be part of the plaintiff class, but I didn't get any notification. And so then I was given the information for the website for people who do qualify, or those who want information in regards to the case. This is a public open website. It is BentonHarborWaterSettlement.com. This is a valid website. I verified it before I shared it on my law office page. So you can find the link to it on my law office Facebook page. It is a valid website. These happen a lot with like plaintiff or class websites. It's actually one of the requirements that the court kind of makes people do, the attorneys for the plaintiff class do, to give public information in regards to what's going on in the case. So this is a valid website for the plaintiffs who are part of the class. So when you go to BentonHarborWaterSettlement.com, you're going to find this website. You're going to find the information that says if you resided for a period of 2 weeks or more from, I think it's like August of 2018. My little box is here, so it's blocking it. Now it's switched it to me. Hold on. August of 2018 through November of 2021, then you may be part of the settlement class. So then, if you peruse the website further, which I would suggest that you do if you are a plaintiff, whether or not you have actually received information, it does say there on that homepage that there are no cash payments available at this time. There will only be money available if plaintiffs are successful in winning money from the city's insurance. So we talked about that when I did my show. That's the current lawsuit that's going on now, because the insurance provider for the city had said that they were not paying out, which has led to some of the financial issues of the city. If you've been following, there's now even been discussion of a loan. They moved some money from the money that comes from the marijuana sales and different things of that nature. So that is because they have lawyers that they need to pay and other bills that they need to pay, and they don't have the money to pay it because they did not expect that their insurance company would not pay. So now there is a lawsuit in order to get the insurance company to pay so that people can be paid from the lawsuit. So this states, like, even if you fill this out on time and do everything, you got the notice, it's not like you're going to be getting a settlement within a couple of weeks, because there's still an ongoing lawsuit in order to get the money from the city's insurance company. And so again, the class includes all individuals who resided in the city of Benton Harbor for a period of 2 weeks or more from August 2018 through November of 2021, and who are not plaintiffs of the other lawsuit that I referenced. That's really the plaintiff's lawsuit for the children. So again, if you want a breakdown of all these different cases, who's a part of it, and different things, you can watch my previous video from February 2026 that is on my law office YouTube page. And I spend time breaking down all the different cases. But if you are not a part, you would know if you were a part of any of the actions prior, you would have some understanding of that. So if you are not and you still qualify for living there for a period of 2 weeks, then you would be eligible for the settlement. It gives you a map, because that's another thing. A lot of people get confused. A lot of people get confused between the city limits of Benton Harbor and Benton Township. So you may have a Benton Harbor mailing address, but if you live in Fairplain or Sodus or several other different areas that are actually Benton Township, then we're not talking about Benton Township water. We're talking, they have a separate water plant. We're talking about the city of Benton Harbor. So you have to live within the city limits of Benton Harbor. So that's they give you a map to let you know whether or not where you lived would qualify for that, lived or live. And so this is a big thing that is included on here. What are your legal rights? You can do nothing. If you do nothing and you are part of the class. So if you didn't get a mailing, you didn't get a notification, then you do need to do something. You need to call the number that's on the bottom of this screenshot and let them know that you should be part of the settlement and go through the process of becoming part of it. But if you have already been qualified as a member of the plaintiff class, then and you want to receive the money when that is received in some way, hopefully soon, then you don't have to do anything. If you object to the settlement, so if you object to the amount of the settlement, you object to the nature of the settlement, if there's anything that you object to, this is not necessarily like I object because the money's not available because the insurance company didn't pay. That's a separate lawsuit that's going on right now. But if you object to the settlement and because you don't agree with the terms, you don't think it's appropriate, then you have to do that in writing to the federal court by May 6th. So today is April 26th. You would have to do that by May 6th of this year if you objected. So if you object and you're part of the plaintiff class, then that, shows, hey, I want to have additional claims if I'm part of the plaintiff class, but I do not agree. So again, you can't just object if you live in Benton Township and you're interested in the case. You have to actually be part of the plaintiff's class in order to file an objection. This is for people who would be a part of the plaintiff class. And again, if there's questions, then you can call. There's several, like 3 different law firms that are representing the plaintiffs. And there is another part of the website that gives all of their information in their individual websites. But this is supposed to be a specific phone number and email. I had some people tell me that the phone number didn't work or they didn't get to anybody. I haven't called the number myself to see what what is going on in regards to that. But the other part of that is to email them. So there's also an email address. I personally, and you will hear my personal story in a few minutes, why I think that email is a good way to go, because then it keeps documentation of everything that you did in communicating with them. So if you can email or have somebody assist you with email, I prefer email over phone call. A couple other things I did see on the website, key dates. So the last day for the plaintiffs to file a motion for final approval of the settlement was April 22nd. Because of everything I had going on yesterday, I was not able to check and see if that was done earlier this week, but I'm pretty sure it was. And then the last day to file objections, as I said from the previous slide, is May 6th. Right now, the final approval hearing is scheduled for June 17th, 2026, and that's at the federal courthouse in Lansing. So there's some frequently asked questions that I'm going to show you in just a second, but it says on there, like, if you wanted to go and watch the hearing or, see what was going on at the hearing on June 17th, you can do that, and you absolutely can. It's open to the public and to the plaintiff class. So right now, the final approval hearing for the settlement is on June 17th at 10:30 a.m. in Lansing. And then again, it gives you the phone number and the email if you had questions. There is also a frequently asked questions page. I think it's fairly well laid out to give you additional information in regards to what are the basics. There is another page that gives you all the documents. So some of them I screenshotted and had in my presentation back in February, but you can read the full documents that are associated with the case as well through this website. Particularly, question number 9, I believe I am a class member, but I did not receive the notice by mail. So you may still then be a class member. They're not saying you're excluded if you did not get anything by mail. So it says you can go ahead and call or email. Again, I kind of prefer the email address, or you can do both. That's fine. But I think the paper trail for email is important. Um, and then you can contact the lawyers in a different question 15, where I told you there's those 3 different groups of lawyers, 3 different law firms, and things of that nature. So you can take all those different avenues in order to say, I should be a member of a class, but I'm not. So the other thing that I got, and I don't have a copy of it because people have like individual copies of it and they've contacted me, is that they have gotten notifications saying, we need proof that you're in the class. Be very careful. So if you got an email, a letter, a call, you need to verify it with that website that I've just given you, that the people who are contacting you, trying to get contact information from you, are legitimate people. But I mentioned this during the live stream that I did in February, which is you need to start gathering your information to prove that you actually live there. So if your name was not on a lease, but you were living with somebody who lived in the city of Benton Harbor, then you still qualify, but you need to be able to show it. Is your name on a utility bill? Do you have another bill that you have, a phone bill or something of that nature that shows you at that address? Like, you are going to have to show. You can't just say, hey, I lived in Benton Harbor for 2 weeks during that time. You have to be able to provide some proof. There's a lot of people who know about this lawsuit, obviously. So, don't just give your information, particularly that has account numbers, current address, former address, your telephone number, all that information to somebody unless you verify that it's coming from the people who actually are a part of that website, which has been verified and is appropriate. So please be careful in giving your information out to people. And again, I am not involved in the case. I'm just giving information in regards to the case. So I'm not one of the attorneys on the case. I don't know any of the attorneys on the case. I have not had any contact with the attorneys on the case, but I'm just trying to make sure that everybody who is a part of the litigation is able to contact whoever they need to contact. So BentonHarborWaterSettlement.com is the website. I have a link again to that website on my law office Facebook page. You can watch the prior recording of my live stream on YouTube, on my law office YouTube page from February that breaks down the case. But there's a lot of good information on that website if you have any questions. So now I'm happy to be here because I had the craziest situation happen to me yesterday. I'm going to have to drink a lot of water during this because I spent a whole lot more of my day outside than I normally do during this like horrible allergy seasons for me. But what happened, and I think this does tie into one of my topics that I talked about, which is the sandwich generation, helping our older parents who, still want to have some independence, and want to be able to, do different things. My mother's washing machine broke. She wouldn't let me look at it. It's broken. It doesn't work. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. I don't fix washing machines, so, I'm not going to challenge you that it doesn't work. It stopped working several weeks ago. But those who know me, and I think all of those who know me and have been praying for my family, the year anniversary of my dad's death was March 29th. And I actually did my show that day. The day before I did my show, I'd found out that one of my family members had passed, my cousin Janaea in Houston. And then I found out that another family member passed after I finished the live stream. During the live stream, my cousin was calling me to tell me that another family member had passed. So, and we had gone to another family member's funeral the Saturday before Easter. So for the past 3 weekends in a row, we have been out of town at funerals. 2 of them we had to fly to. So her washing machine probably broke before the first funeral, but because we were out of town, and then when I was back in town, I was trying to catch up with all my law office work and everything going on campus with my students. We hadn't had time to go and get a new washing machine. But I had done some research. I had been doing research for a while. She had been doing research, and I had been suggesting and thinking that it was best for her to get one of those all-in-one washer dryer combos. Um, and we're in the land of Whirlpool. Those who don't know, the headquarters of Whirlpool. My dad worked for Whirlpool for his pretty much entire career. Um, Whirlpool does not have the best rated all-in-one combo, so we wanted to get the GE combo. Um, and so we had, she wanted to spend as little money as possible because that's how my mom is. But, especially with her being at home and having her laundry downstairs, this was a ventless dry, so there could have been some other options, but we didn't end up doing that. But, I know that I hate going down to the washing machine and then saying, all right, I'm going to have to come back in an hour or so and put everything in the dryer. And that had been an issue for my mother as well. So I thought an all-in-one would be a good uh, ability to not have to have that situation happen because it will wash and dry all in one cycle. So I've been talking to her about it. I got her on board and it was like, okay, but she wants to go see it in person. Those of you who know the situation with the stationary bike that we had, I kept telling her that she needed a bike like the one I got for her that sits down lower and not up high, like she's not going to do a Peloton bike. But I had to actually take her to Dunham's, to Dunham's store and show her the lower bike and how that was easier to operate before I could then order the bike for her. Well, the bike is one thing, but this washer and dryer obviously is different. So we went to Lowe's. And I'm going to say right now, Lowe's in Benton Harbor, them individually, the people who helped us, particularly Charles, who helped sell us, and the person who I dealt with yesterday, as well as I believe Lisa, the manager's name, were very nice, very helpful, very appropriate. If this is not anything on the people at the Lowe's in Benton Harbor. In fact, they went above and beyond, quite honestly, after all the craziness that happened yesterday. But we went to the Lowe's so that she could look at the different models. We were walking around. We looked at them. We saw the GE model. It was on sale. I checked at other stores to see what their price was, and it was the lowest sale price. And so we decided to purchase the washer dryer from Lowe's. And then they were going to haul away the old ones and, the whole thing, install it. We paid for all of those different things. We set it for Saturday, not only because I don't have time any other days, but Saturday. And the original arrival window they give you is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So you can't do that during the middle of the workday. And then they give you like a 3 or 4 hour window the day before they actually do the delivery. I said it's going to have to be Saturday. Plus, it was a lower price to do it on Saturday. So fine, great. And because we're going to be out of town soon for a vacation, this needed to get done. Like there's a very small window that I have the ability to make sure that this happens. Plus, she needs to be able to use the washing machine to get ready for our trip. So Saturday was a good day to get everything done. We went to purchase it on Thursday. So when we went to go purchase the washing machine, and these are a couple of things I'm going to give you guys as tips. We told them about my mother's stair lift. Again, those who know me know that back in like 2021, the same weekend my dad bought the Camaro, my mom had this chairlift installed. And so our family friend who's been doing, different things for us for years, Dante Warsham, had found this stair lift somewhere in Indiana, had purchased it. I don't know if like Facebook Marketplace or something, I'm not really sure. And got it and brought it to the house and installed it from the main level. My mom's house is a one level main level with the basement. So she's been using that chair a lot in the last 5 years or so, 5-6 years. And it is necessary. And, for many of you all, as we want our parents to be able to stay in their homes as long as possible and be able to do everything that they need to do, though, these are the kind of things, modifications that need to be made. Over the years, her kitchen has been remodeled, the bathroom's been remodeled to be more accessible, and, the stair lift, and we've done all these different things in the house. So the stair lift goes down the stairs. It had been measured. We knew how wide the thing was. My mom is, y'all know my mom. You know my mom. She's very. I kept telling her. I actually told her. I said, stop worrying about things that you don't need to be worried about. It's wide enough. Like we've told them, it's in the notes that we have the stair lift. We asked him about the stair lift. He said that'll be fine, not an issue. Um, so we said okay. We went forward with that. Now, one thing that I'm going to tell you, and this is going to be really important, is get an emailed receipt, which I had come to my email, and get a paper receipt. Get both. So your older family members very likely are going to want to get a paper receipt. My mom always wants a paper receipt. She even told Charles, I'm going to have a file on you, which she does. Every big purchase that she makes a folder. She has her receipt. She has all the, the protection plan, the warranty stuff. She has the card because they normally will give you a card for a bigger purchase like that. And so we had his card. We had all the information, and he was perfectly fine with that. Call me if you have any issues. And so she had all her stuff in a paper in a folder, and then I gave them my email address so that I would get everything by email. So the arrival time, all of those different things, all of that came to my email. We used her landline as the phone number because she was going to be at the house, when they came to be able to deliver the item. That's an interesting thing as well, because of course now they want you to text everything. And I'm going to show you all this. I'm a little out of order. But now, when I try to look up the order number online, this is the message that I get. And there's a very specific reason for that we'll get into. So if we didn't have the paper receipt and we didn't have the emails, then we would have an issue being able to show that we let them know that there was a stair lift, because it very clearly says that on everything that we have. And I didn't delete the emails. I have all of those different things. I kept everything. So that's important. Here's the other part of it. And this is not just in a smaller area like ours. This is really, honestly, everywhere right now. If you go and purchase a large item in a big box store, or, really any store, a lot of these larger items, the newer items, these things like these all-in-ones with all the AI and the, all this and that, they don't have a lot of them in the store. They don't give them to the stores anymore. They keep them in warehouses, right? So he told me if we had bought the cheapest models that were on sale, and particularly the Whirlpool bands, because we're in Whirlpool country and where we are, they have several of those in the store that people can just pick up, take, and go and do as you please with them. But for some of these newer models and some of the more expensive models, they only keep one or two in the store, maybe if at all, right? So what I then noticed yesterday when I got home and I started to look through everything is it says sold from Lowe's XDT of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then gives an address in Grand Rapids and a phone number. I now know from my adventures yesterday that this is a warehouse in Grand Rapids. So this is not a store. This is where they keep all of the items that they then ship out. So if they have several people in our area in Southwest Michigan, they're going to have it coming from the Grand Rapids location. So even though we went in person, paid, and purchased it from the Benton Harbor location, it actually shows as being sold from this place in Grand Rapids. Again, that is going to become important later, and I want you all to be cognizant of that as you're making these kind of purchases for your family members or for yourself. So, paper receipt and email receipt. Keep copies of everything. Be like my mom, have a file. Get the name of the person who sold it to you. Review all of these different things. I'm going to be quite honest with you. If you are able to pick it up and have installation and all that other stuff, might want to do that. Because what I learned was, even though my situation was extreme, there have been multiple issues and complaints against this company, because this is a third-party company that then showed up at my mother's house yesterday in order to deliver this item. Okay, so That's the setting of the stage. You need to make sure that you have all your documents, have everything together, and have everything ready. But understand that, with these big box stores, it might not be that you are actually purchasing it from that store, and it likely is coming from further away if you don't live in a big area. And even if you do live in a big area, if that's not where the warehouse is, it may come from somewhere else. Okay. Now, hopefully these videos play. I've not done videos in my streams before, but those who are my friends on Facebook, I shared some of these videos yesterday. This is another tip for you because for those of you who know, after my mother had a stroke, she needed she wanted to come back home. And but before she could come back home, I needed to get some things in play to make sure that she was safe. I don't have any cameras inside her house. There's one that sits inside the house looking outside in the backyard. But I'm going to say this: have cameras, because I am so happy that this entire conversation is recorded. The entire situation yesterday is recorded on the cameras at my mother's house. And that's really important because what ended up happening, and I don't know if they saw these cameras, if they could see that the cameras were there and that they were recording. I don't know if these two delivery drivers understood that, but they would have tried to play somebody else. And they have, from what I've heard already from the people at the Lowe's in Benton Harbor, is that they're playing people, this third-party company. And I will also say, I do not believe that this was orchestrated or anything by the two young men that showed up yesterday. I think that they were being told things by a shady dispatcher and a shady owner of this third-party company who works for Lowe's, or may not work for Lowe's for long after what happened yesterday. But I think that they were being directed and told what to do by the dispatchers. So I'm not necessarily angry at them individually as people, because I don't know how much agency they really had in the full situation. But it is important to know that the dispatcher did not ask to speak to me until the police were there. So let's get started. So when they originally said they were coming, again, they told you 7-hour window, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Then the night before, they gave us a window of 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. or something of that nature. And then they called her house and said that they were going to be there around the 11 o'clock time, in that time frame. And so I was not there. My mother was at the house along with my god sister Gertrude. So they were there. I knew that it wasn't just my mother at the house, that there was somebody else at the house in order for the delivery. And I was on my way. As I was on my way, I got calls because my mother was frantic, because my mother gets frantic about things sometimes, they're saying that they can't get it down the stairs. They won't do it. They won't do it. Now, I knew that measurement wise, that's not true. So I just said, okay, it's fine. Like, I'll figure it out. I'll be there in a few minutes. Then Gertrude called me, and then my mother called me from Gertrude's phone and said, no, they're leaving. They're going to leave. Like, they're leaving. And I said, no, don't do that. Like, I could tell I was on speakerphone. I said, just go ahead and start disconnecting the old units, because you're supposed to be hauling away the old units. So just go ahead and start disconnecting the old units and get those ready and prepped. And by the time you do that, I'll be there. And so that was the understanding from my phone call. I was on my way in the car, physically going to the location when that conversation took place. When I got to my mother's house, I turned the corner and I see there's no delivery truck, and I had the cameras, so I knew there had been a delivery truck there before. I had seen the washer and dryer. They had taken it off the truck and put it in front of the camera previously, and then loaded it back on the truck. So the last thing I saw was them loading it back on the truck. But when I wasn't looking at the camera while I was driving, so by the time I got there, they were at the end of my mother's street. And for those who know Fairplain, they were about to turn onto Ogden. And so I sped past my mother's house and got behind them and stopped them around the Catholic church and the practice field for LMC's football and soccer teams. And so I said to them, I said, well, what are you doing? Because I know there's no way you would have finished the job in the, couple of minutes since I was last on the phone. And they were like, we're leaving or what. I said, no, you're not leaving. I said, do you still have my mother's, you have the old washer and dryer on that truck? They said, no. I said, you have the new washer dryer on the truck? They said, yes. I said, well, you have my mother's property. Come back to the house so that we can get our property. And so they did. They turned around. I waited to make sure they did. And they came back to the house. When they came back to the house, they parked on the street. I parked on the street because I figured they would want to be in the driveway. Gertrude was parked on the side, which you'll see in some of the videos. I was driving my mother's car. My car was in the garage. So the video that you're about to see, I say to them, like, I go inside. They see, my mom sees that they came back. So, we're about to, like, in my mind, we're about to do what needs to be done in order to get everything taken care of. So this is video number 1 of me talking to the delivery driver. And then I can help you get the other one down. Do I need to pull this out? Does that make it easier?
Yeah, but the thing is that we can do it with that chair on the way.
With what?
With that chair on the way, electric chair that you have on the way. We're not allowed to. If those told you that they can do it, it's gotta be somebody else. Because my company, we are like a subcontract.
So we made them aware that the chair was there. It's in the notes from when we purchased.
Yeah, but it's gotta.
Okay, so what you hear there is I say, okay, like, we'll get things together. Do you want me to pull this car out? Will that make it easier for you to get the items in and out? And he says, yes. And I say, okay. And then he says, but we still have the problem of the chair. And I said, okay, but you all were made aware of the chair. And you heard him say, we're a third-party company. So that's when he first tells me that he does not work for Lowe's, right? So I'm saying, okay, he doesn't work for Lowe's. He's driving a truck that has Lowe's on the truck, but, it's very tiny, like the little thing here. I just watched this 60 Minutes thing about truck drivers and all this other stuff, so I was kind of tuned in. But it says Lowe's like this big, literally, on the car, Lowe's on the truck. And so I said, okay, but, we told you about that beforehand. So I continue to have discussion with him about, he says somebody else has to do it. His dispatcher told him somebody else has to do it. So I had told him when we were by the Catholic Church, I would do it. Yeah, I used to lift weights. I'm pretty strong. You strap it up. I'll move it myself at this point. My mother needs to have this washer and dryer, and you have not offered any solutions, and you still have our property on your truck. That was the crazy thing, because again, our property that we've paid for in full is on your truck. All right. So again, I've told you this actually came from Grand Rapids. This is when I find out that they came from Grand Rapids. So they put it on the truck in Grand Rapids and brought it down. Pulling. Yeah. Can I borrow it?
Yeah. So
I'll get the washer and dryer up here.
well, the thing is that it's gonna be the same thing.
If I can get the washer and dryer past the chair, then you can take it, right?
Yeah.
And if I can get that washer and dryer downstairs, then you can set it up, right? Let me use it. Okay, so you can see the truck there on the side. That's the Lowe's truck. If you see a little tiny darker spot on the side of the truck, that's where I'm telling you that little emblem for Lowe's is on their truck. This is Gertrude's car here. The little gray car that you see there is my Camry that I'm about to move. So now when you see additional, you're going to see my Camry behind Gert's car in a few minutes, because that's what I did. I went ahead and moved my car while he was going to get the dolly. That's what I was asking him. The pulley thing, I was thinking dolly. I couldn't think dolly. But I was making the motion of, do you have one of those? And he said, yes. I knew he did because I'd seen it previously on the camera before I got there. So I said, go get that. I'll move it. You said somebody else has to move it. It's going to be me. And this is important because there's three women at this house. So I'm assuming that he thinks like there's no other man here to do it, that you're not going to be able to do it. Well, I'm going to do it. I told you I'm going to do it. And that is the agreement that we have made. At the end of this video, that's the agreement. This is the last time that this young man talks to me at the house. He goes back to the car. I pull my car out, and then I am standing waiting for him to give me the pulley, the dolly, so that we can get started. I'm ready to work at this point. I got my little Crocs on. I got them in sport mode or whatever they say. The kids are like, I'm ready to go. If I need to pull things up, I'm ready to pull them up. And I'm telling him that's what we're going to do. This is the agreement that we have at this point. My mother's washer dryer combo is on their truck. The old ones are downstairs still. Nothing has been taken off of their truck. So I'm waiting for them to bring me the pulley so that we can get started. Then this happens. Are you leaving? Hey! Hey! No! Hey! Hey! Bring our product back! So I'm standing here. I have now moved my Camry out of the garage. When he starts to move the truck, I'm thinking he's about to back up so that he can back up into the driveway, because that's where they had been before. So it was already a little shady that when they came back, they pulled up and didn't pull into the driveway, even though I parked on the side. So he didn't park in the driveway, but instead of backing up when I started to see it move, he starts to take off down the street. And so I said, no, you still have our property. Absolutely not. Now, at this point, I don't have his name or number. I don't have a license plate number because I could not see the license plate from the truck when they were backed up the other time. And plus, I haven't looked at all that. I'm ready to start moving appliances all over the place. Our agreement when he left was that I was going to help them move the stuff and they were going to do what needed to be done. So, and this is where in the end, we ended up getting our stuff, but I don't necessarily recommend what I did next, which was get in the car without my phone, because I had my keys, but I didn't have my phone, and follow them, which is what I did, as you can see here. So I took off, and I took off after them because they had our property on their truck. And the thing is, if you weren't going to deliver it because of the stair lift, at this point, fine. I will deal with that with Lowe's. But leave the product that we've paid for. That's it. If you're not going to do the delivery, fine. If you're not going to haul away the old ones, fine. But you're going to leave this washer dryer combo that my mother has paid a significant amount of money for. You're going to leave it. And they did not do that. They did not say, I'm not bringing the dolly. They did not say, we're not going to do the haul away. They did not say, any of that. He just left. Now, I'm assuming he was on the phone with the dispatcher, and the dispatcher told him to leave because they had already left once. But he never came back and said anything to me. I had not gone inside. All I had done was move my car from the garage out there, and then I was waiting on him to bring me the dolly. And I knew it didn't take that long to get a dolly, so I knew something was going on, but I figured again that he was going to back up into the driveway, which he did not do. He took off. So when he took off, I ran in the house, grabbed the keys, and I took off. Again, no phone. My poor mother, and apparently Gertrude started like driving around, going to Lowe's looking for me because I didn't have any way to contact them because I didn't have my phone. But I followed the truck. For those who know the Fairplain area, I caught up with the truck at the intersection of Nickerson and M139. So I pulled up to the side that is a right turn lane. And I said, "You've stolen our property. That is our property. Bring our property back." The second guy who was driving takes out his phone and starts recording me. And I said, "Yes, please record me because you're stealing my property." When the light turns green, they go on Nickerson. And when they go on Nickerson and they cross over in 139, I'm thinking maybe they're going to Lowe's. Those who know Benton Township area, like maybe they're headed to Lowe's. So I get into the other lane and I follow them. I'm following them. I'm going to follow my property. And that's it. I didn't get out of the car, none of that, nothing of that nature. I couldn't call the police because I didn't have a phone. So they get to, they turn on Pipestone, and I'm thinking that maybe they are actually going back to Lowe's, which would be great because then I can resolve this with Lowe's. Then they turn down Town Line. So I'm like, okay, I don't know if they're trying to like get away from me or if they're going to another delivery or what the situation is, but I am following them. So when they turned down Town Line, they got right past that business that's right at the corner of Pipestone and Town Line, and they stopped their car. I stopped my car, and there's probably like a good 10 feet or so in between. I did not get out. I did not approach them. I just stopped my car. They got out of the car. They didn't have their cell phones at this point, and they came up and they said, "Why are you following us?" I'm in the car. I rolled down the window a little bit, kept the car on because I'm by myself. And I said, "You have our property." So I followed you because you stole our property. And they said, "No, we didn't steal your property." I said, "Is it still on the truck? Because it's not at the house." And they said, "Yes, it's still in the truck." And they said, "No, we're taking it back." I said, "You're taking it back to Lowe's?" I said, "That's fine. I'll go there and I'll deal with it with Lowe's." They said, "No, we're taking it to Grand Rapids." And I was like, "No, you're not. It's our property. We've paid for it. So you're not taking it to Grand Rapids. You can either take it back to the house, or better yet, we're less than a mile from Lowe's. You can take it back to Lowe's." And they said, "We're not doing that. You can call the police." I didn't tell them I can't call the police because I don't have a phone. I just said, "I'm not doing that. I'm going to be here." So then they went back to their truck. They sat in the truck, and we're sitting in our cars for maybe like 15-20 minutes. I'm not really sure how long it was. I'm writing down the license plate. I'm writing down everything by hand that I can remember since I don't have my phone to document it. So I'm just sitting there writing. I see Ben Township police officer come up, and I said, "Okay, they called the police. Fine." So she comes up, and she comes up to my window and she asks me if I need an ambulance. And I said, "No, I don't need an ambulance. I just need my property back." And she looked at me and she was like, "Huh?" And I said, "They have my property in that truck." And I start to explain the situation. And she stops me and she says, "So you didn't hit their truck?" I said, "No, I didn't hit their truck. What do you like? What do you mean?" She said, "The call came from dispatch that you hit their truck with your car. They said a Camry hit this truck with the car." And I couldn't help it. It's probably on her body cam. I just started cracking up. I said, "They said what?" And at that point, she almost started laughing. But she was like, "You didn't like there was no accident." I said, "There was no accident." She said, "I got called out here on an accident with the claim that you hit their truck with your vehicle." I said, "Well, that absolutely didn't happen. You can look at the car and see that that didn't happen." She said, "Okay, hold on just a second. Let me go figure out what's going on." So she goes and she talks to them in the truck. And then she comes back to me and she kind of has this look on her face. And she's like, "Can we go into the parking lot of this business so that we're not in the street?" And I said, "That's fine." And so I go into the parking lot. She goes into the parking lot. The Lowe's folks go into the parking lot. And I can see that they're like on the phone the entire time with this dispatcher. Again, the dispatcher has never asked to talk to me, never asked to talk to my mother before I got there, have never spoken to the dispatcher. So the patrol woman comes up to me and she says, "They've admitted that it's not true, that there was no accident." I said, "No, there was no accident. Like no accident happened." And she was like, "Okay." I said, they have my property. So at this point, they have called the police. They have lied to you on me. So they made a false police report. So now they've committed two felonies. And she kind of looked at me, and then I was just like, I'm a lawyer. I didn't tell her that anybody that beforehand. I did tell the drivers that. I told them when they were talking about liability, we'll waive liability. I know what liability is. I'm an attorney. And so I don't know if they had told the dispatchers that or not. But I told her that after I said they've committed 2 felonies. And so she went over to try to like get them essentially to say like take it to the house. She said, "Well, maybe not go back to the house." I said, "You're right. I don't want them back at the house. Just take it to the store." And she was like, "Okay." So she's trying to get them, the officer's trying to get them to take it back to the store. I don't even think they knew where the store was because they're not from our area. They're from Grand Rapids. So they are on the phone with the dispatcher. I can see that happening and them talking and everything else. She comes back over to me and she says, they're saying that they're going to take it to Grand Rapids. And I said, no, I do not consent to that. It is my property. Take it down the street to Lowe's. And so then she was just kind of like, all right. So she goes over there to talk to them. And that's when she brings back the phone with the dispatcher finally on the phone. So she says the dispatcher wants to talk to you. I said, fine. So the dispatcher starts by saying, "Ma'am, I'm sorry for your inconvenience." And I said, "It is not an inconvenience. Your drivers have committed 2 crimes. In fact, 2 felonies. So don't characterize it as an inconvenience. This is well beyond an inconvenience. I want my property back." And so he says, "Well, we're not allowed to take it to the store. We're only allowed to take it back to the warehouse, and the warehouse is in Grand Rapids." I said, "No, you're not. It's my property." And then he said the order was canceled. I said, "By who?" Because it wasn't by us. And I said, I told him, I said, the last that we had is that he was going to give me the dolly and we were going to do this. And he said, "Well, he couldn't have given you the dolly." I said, "He did not say that." That's what I was waiting for when he took off and didn't say anything. So whoever canceled the order did that fraudulently as well. That is my property. I want my property back. I'm going to make a concession with you to take it back to the store in Benton Harbor so then I can arrange for it to be delivered or go pick it up from the Benton Harbor location. But you have my property. It belongs to me. Now, my mother's power of attorney, we paid for it. It's our property. Bring it back. And he said, "Well, we can't do that. Like, they're not allowed to do that. They don't have the authorization to do that. I don't have the authorization to do that." I said, "Well, whoever has the authorization to do that needs to do that. Because if not, I'm going to ask the officer to submit a report for receiving, concealing, taking stolen property, and for making a false police report." Because at this point, really, the thing that I'm more mad about is that you lied and said that I hit your raggedy truck with my car. And that's how you got the police there. And I told him basically told him that as well. So they go back, they continue talking. I think they called somebody else, another supervisor or something of that nature. But the officer comes back to me and she's like, "They're saying they cannot take it to the store." And then I said, "Okay, then I want the report submitted." And she was like, "Okay." And I said, "I don't want them arrested." Again, as I said at the beginning of this, I know that those 2 boys themselves are not the ringleaders of all of this. I did not want them going to the Berrien County Jail. But and I told her essentially like, submit a report. I'll talk to the prosecutor, whatever the case may be. But they've committed 2 felonies, and especially lying on me, and that's what I'm upset about. If it does that, I don't want these boys to be arrested or anything of that nature. But I want a report submitted because of what's happened. And she said, okay. She gave me the card with the information I haven't had a chance to pull the report yet, but I also will be doing a FOIA request for the dispatch call because that is public information and I want to hear what they said and lied about on me. And who actually called. That's the other thing, because I'm not sure if it was one of the dispatchers or if it was one of them in the vehicle. But they took off and then turned down Town Line. So if anybody who would have lived off Town Line got a delivery from Lowe's yesterday, let me know. Because to be quite honest, when I got to the store, somebody was complaining to Charles at the store about something else. But then When I told them what happened, again, the people at the store at Lowe's in Benton Harbor were very nice, very accommodating, very helpful. And they were very upset. And they said that they had had a lot of issues with this third party company, but they don't have control over it within the store. So the assistant general manager, I think the general manager was there at some point. They all were trying to help me. And the way they were trying to help me was that they were calling this third party company and asking them to bring it to the store. They know the schedule. Like, they're not just going to come down here from Grand Rapids for my one delivery. There were other deliveries in the area. They were still in the area. They could have brought it to the store. So they were trying to get them to bring it to the store. And we were on the phone for over an hour with different people from this company, this third party company, Merck or something of that nature. I have it all written down. That also has another name. So I'm going to pull all the information for their corporations in Michigan. Understand that I will do that. Um, and they were trying to get them to bring it back to the store because they only had the floor model and one other one available. The other one that was available was damaged during delivery, so it was, I don't know what the damage was, but it wouldn't have been under warranty and all of those different things. So they were trying to get them to get it back to the store. I was able to see the notes. They showed me the notes, and it said the name of the driver, who I will not give his name, had an altercation with the daughter. I said it was not an altercation. I did not make any physical contact with anybody. They stole our stuff. So, I told them at that point, I also called my mom, who was worried, frantic, and sick, and had been blowing up my cell phone. My cell phone was in the Avalon. So she didn't know I didn't have my cell phone on me. Gertrude's out looking for me. Like, they don't know where I am. So this is the part of the story that I said, do as I say, not as I do. Don't just leave by yourself with no cell phone and everything trying to, get stolen property. Don't do that part. But I didn't do anything wrong. It just, I worried my mother. So they said, finally, we get to like the owner of whatever this company is in Grand Rapids. And they say, fine, we'll bring it to the store. So then I said, okay, I obviously don't want them delivering it back to the house. I'm just going to go get a U-Haul and then I will come get it myself. And then they were trying to figure out a way to have people from the store go to hook it up. And I said, we can figure that out. That's fine. I just want to get our property and get our property back. And then once we get our property back, then we can figure out how to get it all hooked up. And they were like, all right, that sounds good. We're going to give you a deep discount on it, obviously refund for the haul away, do all that other stuff. I said, that's fine. So I head to the U-Haul on M139. As I was pulling up at the U-Haul, I get a call that says it's from Lowe's Delivery with a 616 number. So I answered, and the gentleman says, I was told to call you. And I said, yes. And I said, are you the one who got into an altercation with my driver? And I said, I did not get an altercation with your driver. And you're the one that called the police. I said, I didn't call the police. They called the police. I didn't have a phone, so I couldn't call the police. And he was kind of like, oh. And he's like, well, police have been involved. I said, yes, by your drivers for them stealing my stuff and then falsely reporting to the police that I hit their vehicle. And so then he tried to bully me, essentially saying like, you need to, take our apology or whatever the case may be. And I said, I'm not taking an apology because you haven't apologized for anything that you did wrong and you haven't brought my item back to the store. So then he says, I'm canceling the order and they're taking it back to Grand Rapids. And I said, I don't consent to that. And I got the email. I'm looking at my email on my phone while I'm on the call with him, and the order is canceled and refunded. Like, they've refunded the entire purchase. And he said, there's nothing else to do now. And I said, well, that's not right. I said, number one, I'm not consenting to the refund. So I want it to be clear that we're not consenting to the refund. And he was just like, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can tell you that I'm not consenting to the refund. You could return, you've already returned the money, so you can't go back and take it out now because that would be another theft. But nevertheless, that doesn't change the fact that it was my property all the way up until you just canceled this order against my consent. So when they had it in the car while the police were there and everything else, you're essentially affirming by the fact that you're just now canceling the order because we were told the order was canceled before, but the fact that you have canceled it and refunded my money, what you canceled was the delivery. You never canceled my order. That was my property the entire time, and you just proved that. So then, of course, he ended his call, and I went back to the store, and I said I don't have to U-Haul because they just told me they're not bringing it. They pulled up and looked at the notes, and they were just like, "This is ridiculous." So they said we can't sell you the one that's damaged, but we can give you the floor model. And so they gave me the floor model at a deep discount, wrapped it up for me. I went and got a U-Haul. Very thankful to Willie and Chris who met me at the house. The people at Lowe's, Charles, helped me to get it onto the U-Haul. And then Willie, my mother's neighbor, and Chris, after I put an all call on Facebook saying, "Hey, I need help. And if you can help me hook it up too." The thing is, for people who don't have somebody like me who knows the law, who is, you know, like, I'm gonna get in the car and follow them. Who knows once they canceled that delivery, what would have happened to that item? If you don't have cameras in front of your house, if you don't have documentation of everything, if they had just canceled that order and told somebody, an elderly person or somebody who wasn't as savvy, we're canceling this order because we can't complete the delivery. And then the person says, I never got my item. And they said, yes, you did. And they had taken it down somewhere on Timeline to Chop Shop and sold it, or, gave it to somebody else. I kind of put together from some of what they were telling me about some of the issues with this company that that's not too far out of the realm. They just picked the wrong one. But if they, how would you be able to prove that you didn't get the item? So the documentation is important. The email, the paper receipts, not letting them bully you, and clearly not letting them lie to police on you. I will be dealing with this further. It's not over, as opposed to what the guy from Lowe's Dispatch told me. It's not over at all. Because, for me, I get activated, as they say nowadays, not just for stuff that happens to me, but you're not going to do this to my mother. And you're not going to do this to other people in the Benton Harbor area. It's not fair. And so I will be taking this forward. I will be addressing the issue. I will be looking up all the different companies because they have like 3 or 4 different names. I'm not done with it because you're not going to get over on people. But I want you all to know, how the process works. So, like I said, even though we purchased it in the store in Benton Harbor, it actually sold from this place in Grand Rapids. The Benton Harbor store didn't have a whole lot of leeway or say so over this third party company that was hired in order to do the delivery. And to be quite honest, I don't think the delivery drivers had much to do with it. But I'm a good person in the sense that if I had to do all that work myself, if they had hooked it up and disconnected it because I don't know how to do that, I still would have given them a tip. I would not have taken it any further. If they had just taken it to the store, like I asked them to, I would have been, more than happy to say I'm done with it. But the fact that they lied on me and then tried to bully me and then continued to keep my property and then canceled the order at the final hour, and absent my ability to be able to negotiate a solution with the Lowe's in Benton Harbor and take the floor model, we would have been sitting around here without a washer dryer. And that's not fair. People pay way too much money nowadays for different things. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. I don't deserve to be treated like that, but I'm more mad because of the way that my mother was treated and how I heard from the folks at Lowe's other people are being treated because of what is going on. So I wanted to talk about it today to give you the story, to show you what to do if the situation happens to you, and to keep it in a way like I told everyone along the line. I kept it. The story was the same. And then when I finally got back to my phone and was able to look at the videos showed everything that I have been saying. I didn't need to lie. I didn't need to say anything different because it was all documented. And so, it's a messed up situation, messed my day up yesterday. But now it is almost 6 o'clock and I'm going to have to go because I helped my mom get, I put the app on my phone for her washing machine. We put the first load in, but she just told me before 5 o'clock, before I started the show, that she can't get the door to the washing machine opened. So it's done its wash and dry, but now I have to go back over there to help her get the door open. But we are very impressed by how quiet it is and how much room she's going to have in her basement and everything else. We did have to remove the stair lift temporarily in order to get it downstairs, but then Willie and Chris put it back. Thank you very much again, Willie and Chris, um, for everything that you all did. But it was not, you know, it could have been done. And the disrespect was inappropriate and unacceptable, and it will be addressed. But I hope that you've learned something from my experience so it doesn't happen to you. Document paper receipts, email receipts. If your older relative does not have an email, use your email so that you have everything on your email. Keep copies of everything, and don't let them try to go back and forth with you. But understand, ask questions about who the delivery is going to come from if you do delivery. Where the product is going to come from. Can it be shipped to the store? Ask those questions beforehand. Okay, so that people don't end up getting scammed, hurt, have these kind of situations happen to them. That is all for the legal hour for the month of April. I did do a poll, but no, you guys used to vote on the polls all the time on Facebook, but nobody voted on it on YouTube. So I'll have to figure that out. But there weren't that many votes in the first place, but they were equal for NIL, name, image, likeness contracts for high school students, and for Medicaid discussion. So might put it out again unless something else happens that I want to have a different discussion about on May. But I think it's May 31st is the last Sunday in May. So I will be back May 31st for the May episode of the Legal Hour. Again, this video, especially the information I gave at the beginning about the Ben Harbor water settlement, will be on YouTube for you to be able to find. It will be on Facebook for about 30 days. But then after that, if you need to find it, need the website, I have a link for the website on my Facebook page for the law office, as well as the videos are going to be on YouTube for you to be able to reference. But make sure that if you have an objection that you do so by May the 6th. Thank you and have a good evening.